seriously hate all of you. This is still going on in there. There's going to be a big issue. Um, it's almost to a certain degree is like I would love if you would just run these experiments on people instead of bees. Kidnapping a honeybee and releasing it 30 yards south of its hive set. You don't really know when that bee was born to the hive, how many times it's been out on missions, where it would think the system is, and how disoriented would you be if you just got captured by somebody mid-flight, in which normally happens you get eated by that point in time, to go back to the hive, tell them that you were abducted by an alien in a regular direction, because even if you took them, in midway flight to the location that they were going to release them in said location to bring back, unless they start doing that, which they usually go back to the orientation spot to get orientated and go back to where they're going, is definitely a true statement. Honeybees do that. Bumblebees are going to do that. There was almost a notation about moths doing that as well in here to the back end, that weight is relative to brain activity. Well, of course, the smaller you are, the more likely you are to fight or flight. Now, with that said, is there any instincts down there that you are even more highly venomous than anything else, and you basically don't need to think at all for your general size or relative nation? Porcupines are pretty big, and they're in the same class as a beaver. But I don't know, man. 90-pound girl in there, she's going to have a lot of that small instinct characteristics, even though she might be a firecracker, some Rhodesian redback next to a lion. Yeah, pulls alpha for a while until one day that don't fly no more. But that experiment, the monk out there with the bumblebees, by that standard of watch and do, great. They work the bottom of the system. I'm a human. I do that a lot of such. Work your way to the top, get out, hit the next one. Don't waste time and energy from where your load is storing pollen and nectar is going to be to your flight back to the system. Hit the new area, because day after day, those pollen sites and those nectar positions to where you have this, or where you've tested the limits of other bumblebee colonies are going to be, stonemasons or whatever, bunny kelkers. And what was that other one in here? Let's cover the bees. They're talking about more colony-based critters like that having better orientations. Well, again, they come from a colony or nest. Certain critters, a caterpillar's not going to make it much off the tree or farther than that area. Plenty enough food for it to eat, seeing that it was planted more than likely in a situation that is the most beneficial for it inside of the situation. So those test parameters aren't really valid. And again, to kidnap me in the middle of a situation just en route to work, maybe I get a little disorientated too about how that goes down. But I might have enough mental mapping down of that local visual cue tree in town, or any map that's as close to a phone book, get back to home tree. Or what these goals methodologies are. To a certain degree, the college notation there's, yeah, you did a great study or thesis on a bee, and we're certainly not getting into the detail directly of those. We're just casing over most of the animal behavioral psychology at this portion of the book's subject matter. Let's see what we end with here. See if we hit a chapter. The emotional life of animals. Macro speaking, the inner relationships of drone female honeybees is not going to get you far. Mufasa, a wolf pack, human culture, geese, and game hens. You can even start to say chickens on a farm. It's not a wild entity, but you could still negotiate the compressions of that state, have certain PSIs, right? Like the human condition is going to add some variables against the gravitational calc about them picking each other. Wild, nobody cares. That's how that happened. They're competing for food anyways, and stuff's going to get wily. Where we're going to be calling that chicken herd consistently, at least to a higher demographic, but you're also feeding them. You're also putting time and effort into the security on them, so you're the thing that does that when you want it to given a hawk that would do that whenever. Certainly not the natural conditions out in the woods, but you're getting roughly the same growth timeline and breeding circumstances that may come up with that situation in said position. Those chickens are kind of bred to be food animals at that point in time, so that's kind of the zenith of their natural life out there. Given against that, what we may all be thinking about a farm that is off the rails, having problems, to mess, starting to fall apart or something like that, is certainly going to be changing how, if anybody's left to pick up the training on those birds, how wily they would be, how well adjusted they would be to come over on the farm or do something like that. And again, so these teachers not utilizing that thesis may still be leaving college professors that they are or were, and getting them doing some bird watching. Even in the time of the thesis, I'd imagine that was more their mathematical base could still be birds, air acoustics, right? How they flutter. At any rate, catch you on the next one.